Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, we stack them all up, we try to find the essential truths buried deep inside.
And today, we are diving into a story that, it just mashes two completely incompatible worlds together.
Right. On one hand, you've got the high-stakes, ruthless world of celebrity reality TV. And on the other, you have the ancient, terrifying power of dark magic.
It's an extraordinary collision. We're following an investigation led by a woman named Jaime Vegas. She's a professional necromancer.
Okay, which is already a full-time job.
A very full-time job. But her day job, and this is the irony, is being a celebrity spiritualist on this super competitive ghost hunting TV special. And she has to just pivot instantly from, arguing about costume approvals to investigating an illicit magical group.
And what they're doing is, it's one of the most forbidden acts you can even imagine.
Absolutely. The show she's on is called Death of Innocence.
A little on the nose, maybe.
A little, yeah. But that title becomes grimly literal when she realizes the haunted house they're filming in isn't just a set. It's ground zero for a dark magic operation.
Involving kidnapped teenagers and the worst kind of spiritual trauma you could think of. We're talking about souls so damaged they literally can't cross over.
So that's our mission today. We're going to analyze the hidden systems this cabal was using. We need to understand two really critical pieces of magical physics here.
Okay.
First, what exactly causes a soul to be so fragmented that it gets stuck in this limbo state? And maybe the bigger question, how did this group of non-magical professionals, desperate people, manage to do the impossible?
You mean performing real magic?
Performing real devastating magic without any hereditary power. They somehow cracked the code.
They found a backdoor into a system that was always supposed to be locked down by bloodline. So we'll be pulling from all the intimate details of Jaime's investigation.
Everything. From the initial chillingly clinical kidnapping of a runaway kid named Brendan.
All the way to the infiltration of their base of operations.
Yeah.
That subterranean nightmare they called the killing room.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. This is a monumental failure of supernatural security.
It really is.
So we have to start with the target, right? Brendan, a 16-year-old runaway.
Exactly. And he's not, some naive kid. He's street smart, but he's broke. He's looking for a connection, and that makes him vulnerable.
And he's approached in an empty bank parking lot, not by some, monsters in robes.
No, not at all. It's a couple described as well-dressed, middle-aged, and they seem totally benevolent.
They play the sympathy card. The whole lost son story. It's perfect.
It is. And Brendan, he assumes the exchange is going to be, unsavory but temporary, maybe sex for cash, something he can handle. He's completely unprepared for the clinical reality of it.
What's so striking to me here is the total lack of theatrical menace. It's not spooky. It's procedural.
That procedural mindset is the truly alarming part. As they're incapacitating him, and he notes struggling to stay awake, so some kind of chemical agent is already working. He overhears them talking.
And it doesn't sound like a dark ritual.
It sounds like a corporate strategy meeting. They're literally discussing the need to expand and experiment with their procedure to make it work on teens.
And the reason why is just horrifyingly pragmatic.
It's a limited supply of younger children. That's the quote.
So they're managing inventory.
Yeah.
And scaling up production. They see human life force as this renewable, marketable commodity that they need to get to limitless possibilities.
It completely flips the script on what you'd expect from a dark cult, right?
Yeah.
This isn't about blind faith or, appeasing some ancient god. It's about applied science. It's optimization. It's resource management.
They're treating this whole thing like an R&D project.
Yeah.
What works on one demographic? How do we scale it up? That mindset is almost more frightening than, zealous fanaticism.
Oh, way more. Because it implies cold, rational calculation at every single step.
So it's less like a magical cult and more like a twisted, unregulated medical research team.
Exactly. And this is important, despite that modern motive, the method they use to take him down is strikingly old school.
The Latin chanting and the cloud of white dust.
Yeah, a puff of dust in his face, his knees give way, and it's over. It's this meeting of ancient sorcery and modern calculated efficiency that makes this group so uniquely disturbing.
It's a total juxtaposition. They're using the old, proven magical tools to achieve a breakthrough that comes from a very modern, rational desire for for scale.
They aren't trying to appease a demon, they're trying to harness a resource.
And that brings us right to the horrifying consequence of their procedure, the damaged souls. I mean, this is the supernatural red flag. They should have brought the entire council down on them immediately. Jaime first encounters these spirits kids, like the girl Rachel Skye, and they're just faint, whispering, distant. They can't make full contact. They can't cross over.
And that inability to cross over is the central spiritual trauma. When someone dies, the spirit either moves on pretty quickly or it lingers, sometimes violently because of unfinished business or shock.
But these spirits aren't lingering. They're stuck.
They're in a limbo state. The source describes them as too weak or inexperienced to pass over. They are, for all intents and purposes, spiritually lobotomized.
So the sources, they actually get into the science of it, right? The mechanism behind this fragmentation. And it's arguably more horrific than the magic itself.
It really is. They're using a tiny cremation oven. It has its own auxiliary power supply, so it's carefully hidden, engineered to avoid the kind of big power spike that would get noticed in a city like Brentwood.
And they're not incinerating the whole bodies.
No, that's the key. They are only burning the organs taken from the victims.
So this specific harvesting technique, that's crucial to understanding the physics of what they've tapped into.
Absolutely. I mean, traditional high-energy rituals usually target that big, abrupt release of life force at the moment of death. This group, though, they're after something specific, something refined.
And occult traditions, they often link soft tissue and internal organs to the core spiritual and emotional anchors of a person.
Exactly. The heart, the liver, the lungs. They're not just biological machines. They're seen as the seats of emotion, vitality of the soul itself.
So by surgically removing and incinerating only these specific parts, the biological and emotional anchors, in a controlled clinical way, they're producing this highly potent magical ash.
And in doing so, they are performing a spiritual amputation while the life force is still actively transitioning. The soul is inherently tied to the material body until that final moment of passing.
So by hijacking the physical components that define vitality, the organs, they are literally fragmenting the spiritual essence before it can coalesce and cross over.
Right. The rest of the body, the larger parts, become inert waste to them. They're just cut up and put in reinforced garbage bags for disposal. The whole process is one of industrial dehumanization.
And this spiritual consequence is a soul that's left perpetually disoriented, unable to cross either way.
It's an abomination. It violates even the darkest established rules of the supernatural community.
They didn't just find a way to kill. They found a way to functionally destroy a person's afterlife.
Which is a level of spiritual trauma that requires a very organized response. And Jaime, despite her solo celebrity act, she has a pretty robust support system.
Thank goodness. First up is Jeremy, the werewolf alpha. He's her emotional anchor, but also her tactical expert.
He's such a critical character because he is that perfect blend of raw physical power and logical stability.
Right. He's the PAX medical expert.
Yeah.
So he has this scientific perspective that's always contrasting with Jaime's more metaphysical one.
And the sources really highlight his deep sense of responsibility. There's this little detail about how concerned he gets when his 14-month-old foster twins get a simple cold.
Which is almost unheard of for werewolves.
Exactly. So it shows that his alpha instinct, it's not just for battle. It's applied to everything, even the mundane. And it really underpins his protective nature over Jaime.
Then you have Eve Levine.
Eve. Jaime's spiritual contact. She's a dead half-demon witch, and Jaime summons her using this silver ring that connects back to Eve's powerful family history.
And Eve is the heavy hitter, spiritually speaking. She provides that crucial, higher-level ghostly guidance.
Oh, absolutely. Eve has the reputation and the power to deal with persistent lower-level spiritual annoyances. There's this great line about her sending bothersome spooks off to realms like Dantalion.
For anyone who doesn't know the lore from the sources, Dantalion isn't just some generic hell. It's a specific plane of existence that's described as chaotic and, well, really unpleasant.
It's supernatural exile, basically, a way to keep the low-level troublemakers in line. And Eve is the one who can enforce that kind of order.
And finally, you've got Paige and Lucas, the council members.
Right. A witch and a sorcerer, respectively. They run a consulting business, which gives them access to these vast libraries of occult knowledge you need to, put all these puzzle pieces together.
They represent the established supernatural authority, very focused on practicality, safety, sometimes a little too much.
A little too much, yeah. And Lucas is the one who provides the definitive measure of how far outside the lines this cult has gone. He's the one who cites the Cabal's legal code.
their version of a Geneva Convention.
Exactly. And the rule is that even when an execution is sanctioned and it's followed by a ritual sacrifice, an independent necromancer has to be there
Why?
to confirm that the soul has safely passed over.
Wow. So think about the implication there. Even groups that practice institutionalized, magical murder,
Mhm.
even they agree that destroying a soul is forbidden.
They acknowledge the sanctity of the spiritual afterlife. So the fact that this human cult shattered that fundamental spiritual safety net, it underscores that they're not just criminals. They're existential threats to the entire cosmic balance.
It just changes the nature of the entire conflict. Jimmy isn't fighting rival magicians here.
No.
She's fighting a group of non-magical people who've figured out how to do something considered an abomination by everyone, from the cabal all the way up to the fates themselves.
And this immense threat, it throws Jamie right back into the dual chaos of her professional life and her very complex magical duties.
Before we get into the whole showbiz mess, let's unpack the mechanics of her power a little more. Necromancy. What exactly fuels Jamie's trade?
Her ritual kit is this fascinating blend of like historical flair and just visceral reality.
She's got the theatrical components, right? The grave cloth, supposedly from a Roman emperor, and these ancient bone and teeth relics that her nan gave these grand histories to.
And those are great for showmanship, for focusing the mind. But crucially, the sources are very explicit that an object's alleged history has no bearing on an object's power.
So it's the story. The narrative helps with the mental focus, not how old the thing actually is.
Right. The actual potency, the real juice, comes from the fresh flesh artifacts.
Which are exactly what they sound like.
Bits of bone, teeth, an ear, a finger joint. And this detail is critical. The material confirms that to be potent, they had to be fresh.
And fresh here means within the last year.
Within the last year, which creates this deeply unsettling logistical requirement for her. These artifacts have to be burned annually, the ashes get added to a jar, and then they have to be replaced.
So it's a constant annual confrontation with the mechanics of death. I mean, imagine the logistics, the ethics, the spiritual drain of constantly needing to source and refresh components from recently deceased bodies.
It keeps her right on that boundary of life and death, constantly. It ensures she can never fully step away from her specialized trade.
And this constant interaction with death, it brings us to this idea of magic versus ritual. The ritual components, the chalk symbols, the corpse dust, the relics, they're really just tools for intense mental focus.
Exactly. There's a theory from Paige's mother mentioned in the text that ritual provides the necessary mental shift. For Jamie, who's living in the chaos of contract disputes and reality TV, she needs that physical anchor.
To pull her mind from the mundane world of, grocery lists.
Right, into the metaphysical sphere of interacting with the dead, the ritual structures the inherent chaos of her gift.
And the chaos is what she's truly afraid of. Every necromancer carries this risk of madness. It's the legacy of her gift, and we see her constantly wrestling with this anxiety.
Which is where Jeremy's role as her rational anchor is so vital. He doesn't use magic to reassure her, he uses logic.
Right. He points out she hasn't succumbed to the common causes of necromantic madness, which are what? Denial and overuse.
Denial of her power, which leads to this immense psychic pressure, or overusing it to the point of mental and spiritual exhaustion. That structured ritual and her strong support network, that's what keeps her mind intact more than any spell.
And that fear of madness is just constantly heightened by the utterly artificial chaos of her professional life.
Oh, yeah.
She's trying to balance this life-or-death investigation with the demands of Death of Innocence, a show run by producers like Todd Simon, who's known for beer commercials.
Right. His entire focus is on spectacle. Showmanship over solemnity is the defining rule of the set.
And Jamie needs this gig for visibility, for marketability, but she's constantly battling her co-stars. There's Bradford Grady, the smooth British spiritualist.
Trying to move his show stateside, throwing out these ridiculous demands like needing 6 hours of prep time for any spirit communication.
Which is purely to manipulate the schedule and assert his dominance on set.
Totally. And then there's Angelique, the Angel of the South. She represents that existential threat of youth focus in the industry. She's all visual drama, superficial flattery.
And she provides the producers with the visual appeal that Jamie, as an established but, older necromancer, struggles to compete against.
The whole environment just breeds paranoia. Jamie finds pinhole cameras recording the common areas. Her entire life on set is under surveillance.
And this constant feeling of being watched and managed, it's intentional. The producers, Becky Chung and Todd Simon, They're setting the spiritualists against each other for drama.
They even use assistants, like this guy Will, to sneak Jaime information about upcoming subjects, basically forcing her to one-up her rivals and risk her professional standing with them.
It's high-stakes reality TV and forces Jaime to operate with the same level of caution and, frankly, internal espionage that she uses when she's tracking dark magicians.
And that's the genius of the narrative structure here, isn't it? The skills required to navigate Hollywood, the paranoia, the surveillance awareness, the political maneuvering, maintaining a facade, they're the exact same skills needed to survive a dark magic investigation.
Her day job inadvertently trained her for this.
Absolutely.
So this breakthrough, the cult achieved human magic. This is the structural weak point of the entire supernatural world.
It is, and we get the philosophical perspective on this from a very interesting source. Eritron, a high-level demon.
Eritron is the perfect source for this because he's so detached. He's ancient, he's objective, he views the human experience, including pain and magic, with the cool scrutiny of a scientist examining cause and effect.
He's not invested in the human outcome. He only cares about the magical mechanism.
So what's his theory?
Eritron's theory is that supernaturals are essentially just successful random mutations. Over millennia, certain bloodlines developed access to magic. The fundamental unwritten law of the universe was that human magic is impossible unless the caster had some diluted magical or demonic blood.
Lineage was everything.
Everything. And now, this group of non-magical professionals, these rationalists, have found a loophole. A loophole that lets them cast magic capable of fragmenting a soul.
And Eritron, the scientist of the supernatural world, he suggests that they did this through either in-depth scientific experimentation or
plain old dumb luck. And the distinction is almost irrelevant. The point is, the barrier's broken.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because if magic can be learned, harnessed, and reproduced without a bloodline, then the entire social and political hierarchy of the supernatural world just collapses.
Completely. Werewolf packs, witch councils, sorcerer lineages, all of their power is based on exclusivity.
And that exclusivity is now nullified by a cremation oven and a few focused, rational human minds.
This is why the fates, the entities that control cosmic destiny, are described as being freaked. This is the magical equivalent of a technological singularity. Power is now universally available.
Provided you're willing to commit atrocities to gather the fuel.
The core conflict is no longer about good versus evil. It's about hereditary right versus technological innovation.
Okay, so the structural threat is confirmed, but the council is stonewalling, right? They're focused on safety protocols, they're moving slow.
Way too slow. And Jaime knows she can't wait. So she goes completely rogue. She decides to question Molly Crane, who is a master of the dark arts known for ritual sacrifice.
Not someone you just drop in on.
No. And James' tactical prep shows her professionalism. She's not just walking in blind, she's scoping the perimeter, looking for escape routes. But Molly is just too entrenched, too skilled.
She uses a powerful binding spell, and this sudden blast of energy captures Jaime instantly.
Throws her in the trunk of an SUV. Jaime is bound, gagged, totally vulnerable. Molly even tries to torture her with this glowing twig, threatening to brand her face. The stakes are immediately violently elevated.
But Jaime's quick mind is her greatest weapon. Molly, in this moment of emotional venting, she reveals why she killed her boyfriend Murray.
He was threatening to steal her daughter's college tuition money.
And Jaime latches onto that vulnerability. She offers to help Molly cook up a justifiable "things went wrong" cover story for the council. It's a brilliant tactical deception.
It buys her trust, and more importantly, it buys her critical time.
And then the cavalry arrives, in the form of Eve's daughter, Savannah.
The powerful half-demon witch-sorceress hybrid. Savannah tracks Jaime down using her abilities, and her power is described as just raw.
Yeah.
Almost uncontrollable.
She unleashes this massive, booming Kayut spell.
And the energy blast is so intense it literally slams Molly into the side of the SUV, leaving a visible dent.
For context, the Kayut spell is portrayed as a massive kinetic energy discharge. It's pure, unrefined, magical force.
And it immediately neutralizes Molly. That dent just speaks volumes about Savannah's immense volatile strength.
Okay, so once she's free, to Jaime and Jeremy, they pursue their lead to Mae Donovan, the head of the Erica Weiss Society.
And the group's cover is pure genius. A collection of seemingly rational professional people lawyers, journalists, a psychiatrist, all dedicated to busting paranormal scams.
It's the perfect disguise. It lets the dark magic group gather sensitive intelligence on the supernatural community. It protects them from suspicion.
And it lets them hide their true quest for power among the very people who should be investigating them.
And it's here they meet Hope Adams, a tabloid reporter who turns out to be a key supernatural figure.
A half-demon of the Espisco subtype. Eritron later confirms this subtype is exceedingly rare and that Hope is, in fact, Lucifer's daughter.
Wow. Okay, so the Espisco subtype, what's their power?
It centers entirely on chaos. Hope sees these vivid visions of death, destruction, and chaos, and they can be triggered just by touching an object or entering a location.
There's that anecdote about her touching a shrunken head.
And instantly seeing the original owner losing it in the Amazon, it's an incredible but also incredibly burdensome power.
And her job as a tabloid reporter, documenting the most chaotic, messy parts of human life. It's perfectly suited to her power.
But it also makes her hyper-vulnerable to the energy this dark cult is putting out. Eritron's warning not to underestimate the Espisco half-demons is just clear foreshadowing of the danger her sensory connection poses.
So Hope's informant, they identify the cult leader, Eric Botnick, and he's promising his followers a major breakthrough involving true magic.
So Jeremy and Jaime decide to break into Botnick's shop immediately.
And the break-in is this great moment of character contrast. You have Jeremy, the werewolf alpha, moving silently, using his heightened senses to track and maneuver.
And then there's Jaime, struggling in her high heels. It just perfectly emphasizes that constant struggle between her demanding public image and the grim reality of supernatural fieldwork.
They find the shop's bathroom is actually a storage closet, and it's got a trapdoor to a basement.
And the closer they get to the source of the magic, the more chaotic the contents of the room become. You've got S&M magazines, rat poison, cat food, suggesting a lure for small animal sacrifice.
And jars containing organs, mostly animal, but one is confirmed as a pig fetus.
This collection, the recreational depravity mixed with the calculated scientific experimentation, it just shows how thoroughly depraved their entire operation is. They're clearly practicing on animals before scaling up to humans.
And then they realize they're not alone, they have to hide.
Right. They hide behind some boxes in this little carved-out cubby in the basement wall, just as Botnick and his disciples of Asmodai arrive for a meeting.
And this is where the true, unsettling nature of the group really emerges. They spend time talking about the most mundane, suburban problems.
Layoffs, broken dishwashers, complaining about the commute.
And then they seamlessly transition into performing a dark chanting ritual and pledging their bodies to Asmodai. The contrast between suburban worry and satanic pledge is just, it's chilling.
It highlights the sheer psychological compartmentalization these rational professionals are employing.
And it's during this terrifying confinement that we get this really deep, vulnerable moment from Jeremy.
Yeah. Huddled together in the dark, he reveals his personal struggle as an alpha, the constant need to project complete confidence and certainty, even when he's filled with misgivings and doubts.
It's such a key character moment. It really humanizes that alpha role. And Jeremy uses this moment of trust to draw an unmarked rune on his notepad.
He tells Jaime it's a simple calming device he found when he was younger, something to help her focus. And Jaime, she trusts him completely. She focuses on that simple design to quiet her mind while this cult is chanting in the background.
And that quiet act of support, which we will definitely revisit, is such a powerful moment of their reliance on each other.
So all these disparate clues, they now just snap into focus. Jeremy links May Donovan's South African accent to the Muta murders and Tantrism, a connection that his Pax anthropologist Clay had studied.
And that is a crucial dark link. For context, Mutu refers to traditional occult medicine in some South African contexts, but the term is, well, it's infamously associated with ritualistic killings.
Often involving children where body parts are harvested for power.
So this confirms that May operates with an ideology that fully endorses child sacrifice for magical gain.
And then Eve provides the final confirmation. She says May's voice matches the woman that Rachel Skye, the child ghost, heard during her kidnapping.
So Jaime realizes May used the Eric Weiss Society as a brilliant cover. It allowed her to gather intelligence and provided the perfect professional smokescreen for their abominable research.
And we learn the depth of her deception, too. May orchestrated the murder of her boyfriend, Murray. She claimed he was going to betray them.
But the real motive was to force the group into an unbreakable shared accomplice pact, to cement their allegiance by making them all murderers.
The rising chaos around the house, which is being fueled by this imminent dark magic, it completely overwhelms Hope.
Right. Her Spisco nature makes her a psychic lightning rod. She starts exhibiting signs of, like, rapture mixed with fear. She's compelled by the visions of death.
And she's manipulated into trying to lure Jaime into the garden where the lost souls are lingering.
Jaime recognizes the lure immediately, and she has to make this calculated, really painful choice. Hope is now unwitting bait.
So James sees the non-working gun that Hope had planted on herself for protection earlier.
And she uses it as a blunt object. She strikes Hope on the temple to knock her unconscious.
I mean, that action striking a vulnerable half-demon friend, it demonstrates James' absolute professional focus. She prioritized Hope's safety by neutralizing her, choosing a temporary physical injury over what could have been permanent spiritual danger.
But the maneuver is costly. She's captured moments later. She wakes up bound in a dark, concrete room.
Which is immediately confirmed by Murray's trapped ghost to be the killing room. It's sealed, no door handle, just a drain in the floor.
And May, Don, and the others, they confirm their horrific plan. They're going to use Jaime and Hope as half-demon material for truly magical ash to secure their power breakthrough.
So Jaime, she's unarmed, she's without her tools, and she is facing this final, terrifying moment of decision.
And with no kit, no time for an elaborate ritual with certain death looming, she conjures this desperate, absolutely brilliant plan.
She claims she can perform the most powerful magic of all, the power to raise the dead.
And her strategic genius here is in her target. She doesn't try the impossible task of raising a human soul, which would be fragmented and useless anyway.
Instead, she targets the stuffed taxidermy animals mounted high on a shelf above them.
A black crow, a bat, a legless dog, and a half-raccoon.
This is raw, toolless necromancy. It requires immense energy, focus, and a willingness to tap into the very darkest aspects of her gift. She's not raising ghosts here.
No, she's reanimating preserved physical corpses.
And the result is just pure philosophical horror. The taxidermy animals, they convulsed and twisted, they snap off their mounts, and they just start attacking the cult members.
We get this truly gruesome detail of the half-raccoon, whose preserved internal organs literally slide out after it bites one of the group members.
So the cult is exposed to a form of magic that is so much more primal and disgusting than their clinical sacrifices ever were.
And Jaime screams the strategic key to all of it. They can't be killed because it's already dead.
And this just exploits the cult members' fear and their fundamental misunderstanding of true necromancy. They can handle murder, but they cannot handle the undead. It's a physical form that defies their rational understanding of mortality.
That shock and terror, it creates the distraction she needs. She escapes, slams the door shut, and locks the remaining members inside with the zombie animals.
She performed a successful high-stakes act of chaos. She demonstrated a power that instantly overwhelmed the cult's calculated science.
And then Jeremy and Carl Marston arrived to finish the job, neutralizing the cabal. But the true resolution requires Jaime to cast one final release incantation.
To free the trapped animal spirits that she had so brutally raised.
So in the aftermath, Jaime immediately focuses on minimizing the political fallout from all this.
Right.
She makes sure her rival, Bradford Grady, gets the public credit for discovering Rachel Skye's body.
Which is a brilliant political maneuver. It shifts the media circus onto Grady, who craves that spotlight, while at the same time it confirms to any remaining associates of the cabal that Jaime knew exactly where the bodies were.
So she diverts the attention from herself while establishing herself as the principal threat to be feared.
Exactly. The police quickly uncover a second body, which brings critical closure to the case. And then Jaime, Eve, and Christoph, they work together to gather the trapped children's ghosts.
The spirits are described as faint and shimmering, and they only really stabilize when Eve starts speaking to them.
And this is probably the most healing moment in the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
Eve guides these vulnerable children over the veil. Not with powerful spells, but through gentle human conversation.
Asking about their favorite ice cream flavors.
Vanilla, chocolate, bubblegum. This tender emotional engagement confirms that the damage done to them was purely spiritual, and it required emotional resolution, not magical force, to heal.
And then finally, we get the reveal about the rune that Jeremy drew on her hand.
Right. Jaime confronts him about it, realizing a simple, calming rune was kind of out of place for a werewolf alpha to know about.
And Jeremy confirms her suspicion. It wasn't a calming rune. It was a magical tracking device.
A homing device. It allowed him to sense her trouble and find her after Molly had captured her. It was a preemptive measure, this silent, powerful commitment to her safety that she had trusted without question.
The entire ordeal, It forces Jaime to make these fundamental changes to her life. She drafts a media release, decides to end her regular television engagements, her semi-regular spots. The cost is just too high.
And this career change is rooted in this really profound realization she had during the investigation.
That it hurt more to say no to helping ghosts than it did to say, I'll try, and to fail.
She finally accepts the inevitable emotional drain and the risk that comes with her unique gift.
And she resolves to face her deep-seated fear of madness head-on. She decides to contact other necromancers who are struggling with it, like her grandmother's friend T.
She decides confronting the danger, rather than pretending it doesn't exist or avoiding her power, is the only way she can retain her sanity and protect herself.
And what about her and Jeremy?
Their relationship stabilizes. They accept that they have separate, highly demanding lives, and they define their connection as one based on regular, intense interludes, maybe a weekend a month, built on mutual trust and responsibility.
And Jeremy confirms he enjoys that responsibility, the protection he provides her. His alpha instinct, his need to protect the vulnerable, it perfectly complements her need for a stable anchor against the chaos of death magic.
Their dynamic is built on necessity and a shared commitment to this extreme existence.
The complexity, the sheer depth of this investigation, it's just astonishing. We saw the fusion of cold scientific harvesting with the dark magic ritual, the high-level politics of the supernatural community.
And the ultimate grotesque test of necromancy in that sealed concrete bunker.
What's so fascinating here is that the greatest threat came from within the seemingly rational, normal human world.
Right. This non-magical group of educated professionals, they were driven by scientific curiosity and this quest for forbidden knowledge, and they succeeded where centuries of dark magicians had failed.
They broke the foundation of the magical world by treating spiritual power as, what? A technical problem to be solved.
Exactly, which raises a really important question for you, the listener, as you consider this dangerous new knowledge in the supernatural world.
We saw how the desire for power and knowledge corrupted these rational minds. So if the core ingredients for true, devastating magic can be created from stolen life and scientific method, breaking that bloodline rule,
Yeah.
what responsibility does the wider supernatural world have to police the knowledge of impossible human magic?
Should they risk proliferation by exposing the loophole to ensure a countermeasure is found? Or must they maintain absolute secrecy, even in the face of this profound existential threat, knowing that the structural stability of the magical world relies entirely on containing this terrifying secret?
A provocative thought, especially when the discovery has already sent shivers up the spines of the fakes themselves. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into celebrity, sacrifices, and the impossible power of human magic. We'll see you next time.